Hey, Mr. Deaton. This is Samuel Smith, and today we are going to be talking about libertarianism. Woo woo! It's about the fundamental right to liberty, and that we have the right to do what we want with the things we own, including ourselves, and provided that we respect other people's rights to do the same. So this is about Sandel's chapter. Sandel. This is about the chapter. I think it was chapter 3. So. The first part that I'm going to go over is the economic aspect. So, if in the book it talks about how if we own ourselves, then and therefore we own our skills and talents, and if we own our skills and talents, then we are entitled to the fruits of those talents. And then if we're entitled to the fruits of our talents, we are entitled to all 100% of the fruits of that labor, and the government doesn't have a right to tax the 30% on that stuff that I did, on stuff that I don't say that I want to spend it on. So it then goes into talking about if people got what they own through fraud, force, or injustices, there's a case to be made about redistributing that wealth, and the government going in and saying, hey, we need to give everybody an equal amount. And it's not about equality itself. It's more about righting past wrongs, and if people either got the money they did through fraud or force, or even if people in previous generations did that and they are getting the money passed down to them. So the example that he uses in the book is about Michael Jordan. So let's say for some reason the government finds a way for everybody to have the same amount of money. It redistributes all the wealth. And so let's say Michael Jordan wants to go play basketball. So he goes and puts this stuff together, and people, let's say it costs $50 for them to go see him watch. And at the end of the season, he gets about $31 million, all from people voluntarily paying. So doesn't he have a right to that money if everybody voluntarily paid him that money? And most people say, yeah, he does. And so then there you would have to say that equality is okay. And so if it wasn't, then the government would have to keep redistributing that wealth, and there would be no point of him even doing that in the first place. And it would also cause the government to be involved in everything all the time. So the critique that you talked about in your video was that no one deserves all their talents, and it also talked about it a little bit in the book, is that no one fully deserves their talents, that they're lucky, that they have natural gifts and they didn't do anything to deserve them. And similarly, we don't own 100% of our labor or of our proceeds, but a majority of them. So a libertarian might rebut that if we don't do anything to receive the talents that we are born with and they're placed upon us without any regard to our own will, why should we have to pay the consequences for them? Here's an analogy. So let's say you're in medieval times, okay? And a feudal lord declares that all redheads, whom the general population sees as very attractive, and uses bribes to try and get them to marry them, they must give a 30% tax of all their crops. All the redheads have to pay 30% of the tax of all their crops. Is it morally okay for the feudal lord to do that to you and you're a redhead? So similarly, why should we have to pay for our talents? Many people don't use and a case can be made that many people don't even use their talents for their benefit. They are maybe couch potatoes and just sit around all day not doing anything. Should they be taxed too? Because they have talents as well. It just doesn't mean that they're using them. Who's to say who's using their talents and who isn't? And why? So the whole thing is, why should we have to have a consequence of something that wasn't up to us? So that was the point that I thought of. And then even furthermore, I thought of some other ideas were that who has the authority to decide what's talent and what's skill? Furthermore, what authority can take responsibility for the talent, and demand money in exchange? And if a higher power gave us those talents, shouldn't it be it that we owe the other portion of the 100% to? The book talks about how if we don't own the fruit of exercising our talents, then we don't own the talents and skills themselves, and in turn ourselves. who then owns us? And do we want to give that power to the political community? I realize I'm going a little bit over 5 minutes, but this is really, really interesting to me. And yeah, all I got to talk about is the personal rights really quick. So, the personal rights point is that we are rational, autonomous adults, and every choice that we make will end up impacting us in some form or fashion. So therefore, we should be able to choose how we spend our lives, what we do and believe, etc. So the critique that you talked about in your video was that if I am a heroin addict, it not only affects me, but it also affects my family and all of us and society, and all of us because we're the people that are watching your philosophy course, and all of the greater society and what you would be doing otherwise. So I feel that a libertarian would probably have to say that these actions will end up coming back and affecting the person that did it, which would be you and whatever actions that you did or didn't do. And so it's just the law of balance I see. And I don't personally see that there's a rebuttal there at the moment. And furthermore, should there be government the question that you asked is that should there be government restrictions on this personal liberty, making it only go to a certain point? I think that there is, and like as far as the personal rights go, when it talks about the consensual cannibalism and all that fun stuff, I see that, like with Aristotle says, that there's a golden mean between all of this. I see that libertarianism might be one extreme and utilitarianism might be another extreme. They both might have great ideas, but not all necessarily applied to extreme circumstances. If there's a way to have I think it's kind of like the all things perspective point of view and seeing which ones work in situations most, and using that and just using your common sense and just logic. So, yeah, I went a little bit over my time, but it was really, really interesting to me, and it was a lot of fun. Cool. Toodaloo. Have an awesome day, and have fun in Tennessee. Adios.